Yo, what up guys, it's Flark. Welcome to another one of my 10.1 starter PvP guides. This one for Enhancement Shaman, which was probably my most requested out of every single spec by far. So I got to that. In this guide I will go over gear and itemization, stats, your tier sets, talent builds, general shaman talents, PvP talents, some basic rotational stuff, everything to get you quickly ready to push rating in rated PvP, mostly solo shuffle, because that's what people play. Okay, let's get right into it. Enhance is really cool. It's got two pretty distinct builds that are both really good, and they use similar, if not identical, stats. So we'll start with that. We'll start with itemization stats, And if you've watched any of my guides so far this season, you know exactly what I'm going to say. But I'm going to say it anyway. And that is crit is very bad. It's 150% in PvP right now, instead of 175% like last season, in the 200% that it is in regular content. When you nerf a stat by half, it becomes a lot worse, and crit didn't really have that much value with Enhance. Anyway, if any. So crit is a terrible stat, which means you put everything into haste and mastery. There is a talent that I'm going to, I know we're not on talents yet, but I got to show you. It is called Storm's Wrath. Increase the chance for mastery enhanced elements to trigger Wind Fury and Stormbringer by 150%. That's a pretty sizable amount, and it does make your mastery a lot better, coupled with the fact that elemental damage is much more prominent for enhanced builds. Obviously, one of them more than the other, and we'll talk about that in just a second. It makes your mastery very good, which means you just want a combination of haste and mastery. With the elementalist build, you will want to go heavy on the mastery, and with the Doomwinds build, you will want to lean a bit more toward haste, though they're both still good, surprisingly. But haste is going to be a lot more burst, and you're trying to win in a short window, so of course, haste is where you're leaning. And this is how you do that. You just grab every single piece of gear, and when it's mastery and crit, you choose mastery, and when it's haste and crit, you choose haste. And then whichever one you want to lean towards, like let's say you're playing the elementalist build and you want to lean toward mastery, you can just use necklace, gems, of course, enchants, and any other choices. Like when it's a haste and mastery choice, you could just lean toward mastery, right? You can use those things to lean toward one or the other, and then you have a perfect set of gear. This is very doable. So you can see haste, mastery, mastery, haste, haste, mastery, haste, mastery, 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 right? You can do this. You can effectively eliminate every single crit and you'll have perfect gear. What about verse, you may say? Do not worry about it. Your PvP gear has the verse that you need, and you don't have to actually prioritize it in any way. That's why I have mastery, haste, gems, and that's why I crafted my embellished gear with haste and mastery. Now you can see I'm using precog. That is because I was playing R Shaman at the beginning, unexpectedly, but I was playing R Shaman at the beginning of the season. That said, I'm 95% sure I've seen Saul use precog and just cast something, juke one kick, and then have 15% more haste for his burst. Can you believe that? Isn't that crazy? You could actually run this because you could just cast a hex, right? There's hex on my bar. You can see it glowing up. I don't have a target right now. You could just cast a hex, juke it. And then, in solo shuffle, the Zug melee, like me, will kick on top of that, and they'll miss, and then you'll have 15% more haste, which is like a mini hero you just use for bursting. It's pretty crazy that you could do that. Otherwise, you can just use the determination or even the shadow flame. I think determination is probably better for just chip damage. And of course, the other embellishment that you're going to want to use is the primary stat 1 on kick. That's a no-brainer. Your shear is a very short cooldown. You'll be able to activate this no problem. You won't be missing kicks unlike your opponents, right? So you will be grabbing that, kicking somebody, and grabbing a huge amount of primary stat during your burst. And Enhance right now is all about big hits or a bunch of small hits in a very short window to make it very bursty. So there's your embellishments. There's your gear. Let's talk about the tier set real quick. Here's a little trick for you. If you go to your dungeon journal, you go over to raids and you bring it up to Shadowlands. Isn't that hilarious? And then go over to loot. You can actually see the item sets and the tier sets for this season, which allows you to get these stats that you're looking at. So you do a quick look over. You see haste verse here, crit haste here, crit verse here, crit main stat verse here, and haste mastery here. So you can already see legs is very good. Helm is very good. And then everything else is a little flawed. right? This one doesn't have any mastery. These two don't have any haste or mastery, and they have main stack crit. So what I decided to do for my enhance is that I was going to do the least egregious tier set offenders. So what that means is this one has off stack crit. It has more haste than crit. So I'm going to get that. Now I've already got the head and the legs. So all I have to do is get one more piece. And which one of these is worse? Offender? Well, this one is a least offender, right? This one's a worse offender because it's got a lot more crit on it. So you're wasting more stats. This is a chest piece, right? So it's a big piece, which means you're losing more important stats by grabbing this one. So instead, you grab the hands. If that was confusing, let me make this very simple. Here are the tier pieces you're going to grab. Helmet, shoulders, gloves, legs. That was not confusing, I'm certain of it. Okay, so now that you have your tier set, and the tier set for every spec is nerfed by 50%, but it doesn't matter. It's just raw damage that you're adding, and two of these are really good. Look at that, haste mastery and haste versus main stats, so that's very good. Of course, you're going to grab that set bonus just for the raw damage. You've got your gear, you've got your embellishments. You're, of course, going to grab insignia and, you know, 2 mastery weapons with Sophic Devotion. You got your mastery haste gems. You know everything you need to run. The only reason, if you armory me, I'm hovering over this right now so you don't get the wrong idea. If you armory me and you see, wait, he's running a crit verse, he's an idiot. He can't even read his own guide. I just got the worst vault of all time. I'm sure you guys have all been there. Sucks, man. What are you gonna do? It was this or like adaptation, I think. So what did you want me to pick? The adapt? I mean, Jesus, come on, give me a break. All right, and that's all your gearing stuff. Cool. All right, so now we go to the talents, and this is the really, really fun part. So if you skip to this part, you made the right choice. You have 2 main builds, Doom Winds and Frightening Bolts. That's the elementalist one. All right, so Doom Winds and Elemental. Elementalist obviously focus on all of the spell damage modifiers and the various ways of getting frost, fire, and lightning damage, while Doom Winds is Doom Winds. It's everything about physical damage and Wind Fury with the regular wolves. And what's really cool about this is this capstone right here kind of determines how you're going to build the rest of your build, right? With elemental spirits, you increase your elemental damage, so you go all into elemental. But if you don't run elemental spirits, your wolves actually increase your physical damage by default. This gets replaced by elemental damage with that talent, but otherwise it's physical damage, which means regular wolves gives you super Doom Winds and Storm Strike damage, and elemental wolves gives you super elemental damage. Let's talk about the Doom. Now that we know that, let's talk about the Doom Winds build. Okay. So, first few things, always kind of just core abilities. I mean, you really don't even need Lava Lash, but it effectively just fills out. You need to pick enough talents here so you can go down to the next layer. Anyway, so you go down the left side and get everything related to Wind Fury. This is the entire core mechanic of this build, so let me explain it real quick. Doom Winds. That increases your chance to activate Wind Fury weapon by 20% and increases it, or sorry, 200%. If it was 20, it would be terrible. 200% increases the damage done by Wind Fury weapon by 10%. The 10% damage increase, that's not important. It's the activation chance that's so important, and I'll tell you why. It's because of both Unruly Winds and Forceful Winds. Forceful Winds is absurd. Wind Fury causes each successive Wind Fury attack. So when the proc chance is 200% higher, right, you're getting an obscene amount of Wind Furies, which also hit a third attack, right? And then it is increasing the damage, which stacks up to 5 times instantaneously because how much you're proccing this with Doom Winds. And now you have 100% damage increase on your Wind Fury. So it is proccing all the time, dealing double damage, and with a triple attack. And that's why you see when people use this, what is their top damage? Wind Fury attack. Very hard to deal with because Ascendance, which we'll talk about in a bit, but I'll just show you right now, it makes your auto attack range 30 yards during Ascendance. So that's why they can just vaporize you from anywhere. And that's why enhance swaps are really good. So I'm giving you a little bit of information about playing the class as well as showing you and, well, reading to you the talents. I don't think you're an idiot, but while we're talking about it, we can talk about something like that. enhance swaps are insane. What's happening probably in your solo shuffles is they're going all in on one guy. You give him paints up, he gets his wall out, and then all of a sudden somebody across the map is dead. Why? All their damage is instant, Wind Fury is passive, and their yards, their range is a 30-yard range that bypasses armor. So they go that guy, they get every cooldown out of him, maybe they get a life cocoon on him, then they swap to the monk, and the monk thinks he's fine because he's away from the enhancement shaman, but then he just gets vaporized off the face of the planet. That's how you play this, right? That's how you play it. You do not tunnel into defensives unless they're 3% health left. You just get those defensives and you immediately swap. You recognize the squishy target who does not have a defensive now because he used life cocoon or maybe paints up. You can, if it's a disc priest, maybe you don't swap to the disc priest, maybe you just swap to the other DPS. But that is how the Doom Winds build plays. You need, this window is 20 seconds, guys. Like that's about it, right? You're trying to fit a win in that 20 seconds or get every cooldown out of everybody. You cannot just go into paints up dome. You got to switch, you got to find the target, you got to make sure you're using that window as good as possible. Okay, I know that was a lot, but you know, why would you watch my videos if you didn't want to learn something about the spec? So, okay. Now Maelstrom, weapon, all of those modifiers are sick. This is what makes your lightning bolts, your frightening bolts with Thorum's Invocation hit insanely hard. Maelstrom weapon buff, and it can stack more, and then you can consume all of those 10 stacks, which is just massive. Sunder is just a really nice incap and a huge amount of damage. It kind of knocks people down, so it's kind of like off DR from a lot of other effects, and it kind of feels like more like a stun than an incap, which is cool. And also it plays with your tier set. Crash Lightning may be a choice that I don't see a lot. I run this, here's what I do. I'll show you actually exactly. I run this really cool set. Now we have to talk about that. It's a little confusing, but let me show you. If you run into a pet class, and this is why I'm running this talent setup, because I just played against a big melee cleave with some pets, like it was Windwalker Monk, I think, with some Storm, Earth, and Fire. That counts too. What you can do is you can Crash Lightning, and then each target hit by Crash Lightning increases damage of your next Storm Strike by 25% up to a maximum of 6. Well, that 6 is really hard to get if you're just hitting a lock by himself. But if you're hitting a class with a lot of pets or double melee, and there's a lot of pets there like Unholy, or even Frost has a ghoul sometimes, or Windwalker with all of its clones, or Enhance with its wolves, or BM Hunter, or Demo Lock, God forbid, right? You can instantly get those 6 stacks, and now you're just doing obscene Storm Strike damage every time you press Crash Lightning, as well as cleaving a lot more, which is really good. But I also go into this Crashing Storms talent. This is hilarious, because in the exact same situation, if you're cleaving a lot of pets, there's another talent that gets a ton of value for having pets around the player. And it's not a PvE talent, it's a PvP talent called Ride the Lightning. What this says is if there are more than 2 enemies within 8 yards, when you cast Storm Strike, you also cast Chain Lightning. The other one is just called Forked Lightning, and it's not very good. It's the 2 furthest enemies, which generally is just chip damage on nothing. But the Chain Lightning is insane, because not only does it hit a lot harder, and actually put meaningful damage into the targets that you want it to put damage into, you can also run it with this talent. This talent does, I did test this, this talent does buff the Chain Lightning of this, right? Which means all of a sudden, because the Crash Lightning damage is buffed, and now the Chain Lightning jumps to more targets, so you're not getting it soaked by all the pets, you're actually just vaporizing all the pets. Then you have the Crash Lightning, then you have the Converging Storm, which buffs your Storm Strike, and then your Crash Lightning makes your abilities AoE, right? So what happens is all of a sudden you vaporize every pet. And we know from Feral Druid, effects that both nuke your opponent's pets, but also get a benefit in a single target situation from hitting lots of pets is really damaging to those pet classes. So I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but I don't care. I'm old. This is what I'm going to do. Feral rips all the pets, but then gets proc bites that go into the hunter, right? So you're hitting the hunter pets with rip, and you're getting proc bites from those rips on the hunter pets that go into the hunter. So you're killing his pets, which screws him over because now he has to revive pet. And you're killing him because you're getting more procs that happen because he had pets. That is the exact sort of thing that I just built here. Am I saying that you run this all the time? No, and I'll show you the 2 talents you want to swap out right now. But that is the exact same mechanic. If you see a BM Hunter or an Enhancement Shaman, or an Enhancement Shaman, a Mirror, or an Unholy DK, run this combination: Crash Lightning, Converging Storms, Crashing Storms, and Ride the Lightning, and just thank me later. 1, you're going to vaporize the Unholy DK, and 2, he's not going to have a pet. And right when he summons it again, you're going to kill it again. And as an Unholy DK main, I know that his pet is a lot of his damage, so he is going to hate you. So you could just run that setup. But that's not all the time, because guess what? What if you don't play in against an Unholy DK? Then you have to take this out, and this out, put them into elemental weapons, and you can throw one into Ice Strike. Ice Strike with Frost Shock, which I'll talk about these talents later. It gives you another source of damage while applying a slow. It's kind of like a decent chip damage slow. And just put it into elemental weapons because you still have a ton of nature damage from Thorum's Invocation. Okay, I talked about that for a long time. So, I don't know. Blow me. Elemental Blast. I don't see a lot of people running this. I adore it. It replaces Lava Burst. You get 2 charges. And it's an instant cast with Maelstrom Weapon, which you have so much Maelstrom generation. Maybe I do see a lot of people running this. I don't know. Enhance has so many different builds. But anyway, if you don't see a lot of people running this, do it anyway. It's really cool. It gives you a bunch of stats because you can press this all the time. And it still hits for obscene amounts. Do I have a big hit? Let's see. 100k non-crit. I've hit way higher than that. Let's see if I have a really good one for you. Look at this. It's always my top 3 damage. That alone should sell you. Because it's a ranged hit that ignores armor, gives you stats, instant cast, 2 charges. Let's see. 101k non-crit. Yeah, so that's 160k crit. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So you do an instant hit that hits that hard on only a 12-second recharge, and instant cast gives you the secondary stat. Okay, yeah. So it's 1 talent point for all of those benefits. If somehow people are not running this, just run it. They're foolish. Okay. And that's pretty much everything. Wind Fury Totem, because we already talked about why Wind Fury is so good. Feral Spirit, because they buff your physical damage abilities. Storm Strike damage, because of Storm Strike damage. Witch Doctor's Ancestry, you need exactly 1 in this because it reduces the cooldown of your Feral Spirits by a ton because your Maelstrom weapon generation is huge. And then you get your Wolves back up, so you get more physical damage, and the whole build revolves around Wind Fury and physical damage and blah, blah, blah. And then finally, you get Legacy of the Frost Witch on this side, and that gives you 25% physical damage whenever you consume 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapon, which is literally all the time, so it's pretty much like 25% physical damage permanently. And now you're seeing all the modifiers that go into giving you that really high... I think I just one-shot somebody in the opener in this game. Yeah, I did. So that's why my damage is so high and nobody else did any damage, because I just one-shot them. Wind Fury damage, Wind Strike. That's all the physical damage. And then you see the Lightning Bolt and the Ele Blast, and we talked about the Element Blast already. Now you have the Ascendance package, which is Ascendance, which again, this gives you your insane swaps. You just spam Wind Strike during this period because they reduce cooldown. You have a huge range. You ignore armor. You generate insane Maelstrom weapon, which I just talked about. I told you we had a lot of Maelstrom weapon generation. Well, this is where it comes from. Then... you can refund that Maelstrom generation with Static Accumulation, which goes into Thorum Invocation. And Thorum Invocation is insane. It increases your Lightning Bolt and your Chain Lightning damage, which, remember, the Ride the Lightning PvP talent when you can get that setup working. Holy cow. But the Lightning Bolts cast automatically. They discharge a Lightning Bolt when you press Wind Strike, right? So you press Wind Strike, and then instead of having to use another global on Lightning Bolt, it casts automatically, consumes your Maelstrom weapon, and then fires off that Lightning Bolt, which does more damage because of the Thorum's Invocation passive. Which is great because you have so many Wind Strikes and so much Stormbringer from Storm's Wrath. You just want to press Wind Strike over and over. There's my Wind Strike button. Right? So you want to do that. But it's hard to weave all the globals in when you also have to cast some Ele Blast or some Lightning Blast. So you just throw in Ele Blast and Wind Strike, Ele Blast and Wind Strike, and the Lightning Bolts cast automatically from Thorum's while doing more damage. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to worry about Ride the Lightning making Thorum's Invocation cast Chain Lightning instead, because it doesn't. You have to cast the spell. So when you cast Lightning Bolt, it says... discharge a Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning at your enemy, whichever you most recently used. So you use Lightning Bolt, and then it will cast Lightning Bolt every time, even if you're getting proc Chain Lightnings from Ride the Lightning. I did check that. Whew. And that's the Wind Fury Totem build. I mean, this spec is so fun. It has so many cool interactions and so many different sources of damage. I don't know. This one, all my other videos were like 20 minutes, and I was doing good, but this one's going to be like an hour. But if you like Enhance, you should just be like just like as excited as I am while I'm talking about this, because I swear it is so cool. Okay. Let me check something real quick. Oh, we're good. So I'm pulling over the elemental build now. We talked about so many talents that this one will go much, much quicker. Because we talked about all the Maelstrom spenders. We talked about Sunder. We talked about Storm's Wrath. We talked about Elemental Blast. And you go down Feral Spirit. You go down Witch Doctor's Ancestry for the super regeneration on your wolves. And then you go Elemental Spirits, which I already talked about. That was the first thing I said at the beginning of this whole section. But in case you skip to this part or something for some reason, it just changes your physical damage modifier on wolves into elemental damage, and this is an elemental build. And this is how it's an elemental build. You get all this stuff on the right. Frost damage, Ice Strike, makes your Frost Shock hit way harder. So does Hailstorm, which is pretty much just passive because it's on consuming Maelstrom weapons. So then you get that and Swirling Maelstrom, and that's huge Frost Shock damage and huge Maelstrom generation, because every time you press those, they kind of like grant you Maelstrom, so it's like a refunding thing that you're constantly funneling Maelstrom weapon into buffing Frost Shock and then getting Maelstrom from Frost Shock and the Ice Strike that buffs it rather. And then, wow, okay, yeah, cool. So there's the Frost package, Hailstorm, Ice Strike, Swirling Maelstrom. And then the Fire package is Lava Lash buff, and Flame Shock buff, Lava Lash buff. All these things are pretty much when your fire, this starts glowing with 2 fire rings on your, just press it. That's what it means. Just press it. It does insane damage. It's all elemental damage, ignores armor. It scales with your mastery. It scales with your other modifiers like elemental weapons and elemental spirits. And now you're seeing all the, I mean, this build is so self-explanatory. It's elemental damage. And then you still get Ascendance, Static Acume, and Thorum's Invocation, because what does this end up doing? What did we talk about? Lightning Bolts and Lightning Bolts buffs. And even though that was really good in the Wind Fury build, it's also really good in Giordano, the Elemental build that focuses on elemental damage. That's what nature damage is, right? Finally, you get Primordial Wave, because when you're firing out those massive Lightning Bolts from all the mastery that you stack, they can also cleave, and you can apply Flame Shots easily to multiple targets by using Prim Wave to get the Flame Shock up, and then Lava Lash will spread it with Molten Assault. So, Lava Lash, Lightning Bolt, Ele Blast, Frost Shock with the modifiers like Ice Strike, and then all of the wolves that are going to be up pretty much perma. And you've got an obscene build. Okay, so I told you that one was going to be way quicker because I already explained all of Enhancement Shaman in the first one. So you kind of have to watch the whole section. Sorry, you can't really skip around if you want to learn about Enhancement Shaman. Both the builds have a lot in common and a lot of synergies. The value, though, I can tell you this. The value of the first build is insanely condensed single target pressure in a small window that's instantly swappable to anybody. While this one focuses on a little bit more sustain, but not sustain in the traditional sense, like Rot from Aflock or Unholy. No, nothing like that. Just frequent sources of, like, it's like sustained burst damage, kind of like Ret. I know somebody commented on a video one time, like, sustained burst damage? What does that even mean, right? What it means is sustain in the source of Unholy or of Affliction is just like non-stop dots. Or even like Boomy with non-stop dots, although let's not talk about Boomy because they just piss me off. Maybe another example is like BM Hunter, right? Just non-stop damage source all the time, even if the numbers aren't that big. These are kind of big numbers. Like, I've hit huge Frost Shocks, I've hit huge Lava Lashes, I've hit huge Elemental Blasts, and I've hit huge Lightning Bolts. But it's kind of like all the time. So you have like a large chunk of damage, not all of their health, but a lot of it, but it's just constant. It's like chunk, 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 chunk. It's not a bunch of small hits, and it's not a complete one-shot like a Windwalker or a Ret back when either of those things had those things, right? It's kind of like just chunking, 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 like what Frost should be. Frost DK should be, right? Enhance is what Frost DK should be. Constant chunking the entire game rather than just once every 1 minute. That's what Enhancement Shaman is. And yeah, it makes me jealous. Okay. There you go. That's how this one plays. The other one is a burst build, of course. Okay. Deep breath. Now we go on to the left side, and we're going to talk about like all of this. I think shaman left side talents are probably the hardest thing to build in the game. Maybe a shaman player could confirm that that's true. You have literally so much utility. So let me go back to my Doomwinds one with Ancestral Guidance, because talking about that is important. I don't know how to, I mean, like, you don't even like get the capstones, but you absolutely could, because you can run the totemic movement ability, which, I mean, right there, it's one talent away. You could absolutely grab this and static cling, which a ton of people do, and then you just drag people into bad spots. Everybody does that. I've seen that all over the place. But anyway, let's talk about this. No, it's okay. Chain heal is actually decent now. You kind of don't healing surge, because chain heal heals for like more, and it heals your entire team. So you kind of like spam chain heal instead of healing surge. Isn't that funny? Then you get Earth Shield, double Earth Shield, and increased healing from Earth Shield. And then you put Earth Shields on 2 players, and you keep them on them the entire game. I got to be better about this. You want to refresh them pretty much the entire game, because it's a ton of healing from Earth Shield, but then Earth Shield increases the healing that you do, right? Okay, so good. All right. Lava Burst is for Ellie Blast. Wall is your wall. Then you get Short Wall. You could also get Big Wall, but I think Short Wall is way better, because it makes it a 1.5 minute cooldown, which can absolutely be pressed multiple times a game. Earth Ellie for the health. Fire and frost damage, no brainer. Tremor Totem is immense utility. Could get you out of fear is the big use, but Succubus, Sleep, and, Mind Control, other tools. Cap Totem, that's really your only form of stun besides Lasso, but Cap Totem can be done while you're using other abilities, and Lasso is a channel. So you can't, like, if you Cap Totem somebody and then ascend on them, that's really good. Your Lasso is good, and that's why I'm saying, like, it's really hard to pick everything. Lasso is good, but you cannot be, like, doing, like, your entire Ascendance one-shot on them while lassoing. You channel Lasso, right? You see what I mean? Okay, cool. All of these are good, too. And you saw that we had to go into Frost Shock for the Elemental build. There's so many good talents for Shaman. But Chain Lightning is default, and it gets you down this way. Maelstrom Weapon, of course. Flurry, auto attack speed, very good for you with Wind Fury. Duh, very good. Crit chance of nature spells and abilities. That's Lightning Bolt and all that other stuff. I use Greater Purge because you have so many globals to press as Enhance. It's better to press 1 Purge, get 2 things, than try and spam Purge, because you might only be able to press 1 Purge, and then you have other globals to press, and you're kind of wasting time, right? So Greater Purge on cooldown actually feels better to me. Hex is your CC. Short Hex to get you over to Spirit Walk, which is movement, speed, and Root Break, which is very important because even though you have Ascendance long range, you still want to be able to finish people when that is not up. So Root Breaks are really good, and it's only a 1 minute cooldown. Nature's Guardian, huge heal. Totemic Focus, it just buffs all your totems, and the most important one is Healing Stream, which does a ton of healing. So you need the buff for that, which is right here. So you grab Healing Stream Totem and then the buff for it, which is increase it by 80%, which is just obscene. So this does a ton of healing, and you should press it on cooldown. Finally, Ancestral Guidance, as we were talking about, I kind of macroed this into something. My Healing Stream Totem, actually. So whenever I want to do big healing, I use Healing Stream Totem, which is macro to Ancestral, and then all my damage also heals people, and then all my healing also heals other people. So it's just like off the global, and you can just press it, and then all of a sudden you just have a lot more healing. Probably have a game with that. Let's see, just to show you the breakdown real quick. Yeah, see in that one, it did 60% of my healing. All I pressed was Healing Stream Totem, and those 2 things just stopped our entire team. But you also press Chain Heal and all sorts of other things. That was just a short game, and that's all I needed to do. Okay, so yeah, I mean, then you're done, right? I didn't even get to go into any capstones, but of course, I already talked about how Totemic Projection with Static Cling Totem is good. Thunderstorm is amazing because you can use it in stun, so you can knock people off of you, and you're going to be getting trained a lot as Enhance. Even though your self-healing is good, you still take a lot of damn. So, and using self-healing costs Maelstrom, so, you know, that kind of thing. And then you have other tools like Immune to Cast, Immune to Kick. I don't think this is very good, but you could land Hex with it. NS, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody go all the way down to that. Totemic Recall also is much better as an R Shaman than Enhance, but you can get like mobility right here from Ghost Wolf. And yeah, when you switch over to the Frightening Bolt build, I kind of just drop Ancestral for Frost Shock because it's so difficult, but you got to get Frost Shock for the synergies. And yeah, like there's still a bajillion talents you could choose for the shamans, but these are the ones that I'm running in the of always. The 2 builds will be linked in the description below. Wow, huh? PvP talents. Okay, shamanism, massive haste buff. Haste is just so good. You can use this on a friendly target, and then you both get 20% haste in PvP. It allows you to use Bloodlust in PvP for 20% haste to both you and a target. Is like PI. And everybody wants PI, so everybody wants Hero. It's just a really nice tool, and this way you get to control when it's used, so you can use it during your Doom Winds window, and yeah, that's amazing. Grounding Totem, amazing. Utility, ground polys, ground chaos bolts, ground fears, ground clones. Do I really have to go? Grounding is good. Burrow is an awesome, actually, defensive tool now added to Shaman's kit. Very, very powerful. Puts you under the ground. You've probably seen it once or twice where nobody can target you or hit you with anything. And then you come up and you actually crank. It says 72,000 damage. That's even more with modifiers, and it can crit. So what's crazy is this is a really amazing early burst ignore and then finisher in the late game. So first you use it when you get like a Ret Warrior popping Avatar and Wings on you. You just burrow and you avoid all the damage. But then it'll come back 2 minutes later, and if the game is still going, that means you're at late dampening, right? And if you're at late dampening, what's the hardest thing for solo shuffle healers to do is to recover, right? So you go underground, help your team recover, then come up and do a huge chunk of damage, and you immediately flip the script because nobody can heal anything. So you were invulnerable into damage, right? Isn't that crazy? Yeah, okay, cool. There's lots of little silly stuff like Counter-Strike. When people don't kill it at 1500, it does absurd damage to burst classes like Ret and Warrior. Sky Fury, for you playing with a wizard, but you don't have any crit now, so this is kind of pointless. Static Field, I already talked ad nauseum about how good it is to run that with Totemic Projection, because you can just drag people to anywhere on the map, bad locations, and just global them. I've seen people use Season Winds because you can shear so often, and if you're really good at kicking, you don't get juked. You can effectively reduce the damage you take from a caster, like a pure caster, like, or I think Chaos Bolt actually counts for maybe all schools, which would be insane. But you can Frost Mage, Arcane Mage, Fire Mage, but still Destro, Ellie even. That's crazy, right? It's actually nuts. You can effectively eliminate a mage from the game if they're attacking you. I mean, imagine if they attacked you and you kicked them 3 times with Season Wind. They can't do any damage to you anymore. You have a permanent, impossible to penetrate wall. So Season Wind, huge tech option. Do not overlook this. Huge tech option, especially if you're good with kicking. And yeah, I already talked about how Ride the Lightning was good into pet classes. And there you go. That's your PvP talents. That's your talents. That's everything. Your rotation, actually very complex. I'm not going to talk about it for both builds. I'm just going to talk about it for the Elementalist build. I'm just going to show you what your burst is kind of like as Doom Winds. You just want to get your Flame Shock off. That's not even super relevant. You would Storm Strike a couple times to get the Maelstrom weapon for... let me put everything on just because it makes me happy. Just to get the Maelstrom weapon for Ellie Blast, then you would send the Ellie Blast for the secondary stats. While you're doing that, you would have used Feral Spirits to like pre-cast them, because they start generating Maelstrom and buffing your physical damage. Then you would Doom Winds Hero Ascend. Doom Winds Hero Ascend. Literally, like that. Doom Winds Hero Ascend. Then maybe Sunder, Wind Strike, Ellie Blast, Wind Strike, Wind Strike, Wind Strike, Wind Strike, Wind Strike. Okay? And this is what it looks like. So, Flame Shock, Wolves, Storm Strike once. Get the Wind Fury Totem down. Ellie Blast, Hero, Doom Winds, Ascend. Watch this down. Boom! 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 Just look at that. Spamming Wind Strike, spamming Wind Strike, spamming Wind Strike, spamming Wind Strike. Didn't even have to press Sunder. Doing 100. Is that real? Is that real? Did I fuck something up? Am I cheating? How did I do 161k DPS single target? That must have been the best one I've ever seen. That actually seems like the best one I've ever seen ever. Has anybody done like that much damage? Seems like obscene. Wow. Okay, neat. So yeah, I guess you do 160k. So that's why you're getting vaporized off the face of the planet from Enhancement Shamans. Now you know. I'm unironically like baffled that I thought it was gonna be like 120. 160 in that opener is just ridiculous. Let me get out of combat and show you the priority system for Elemental, and then we're done. You don't have to listen to me anymore. Is that not crazy? 160k DPS. Yeah, cool. Kind of feel like I'm in streamer mode now, just like reacting to that. Dude. Oh, Doom Winds on cooldown. Oh, true. True. Well, let me talk about some of the priority things while we're waiting. So you have now what you saw is I just spam Storm Strike the entire time, and that's pretty much what you do off the burst rotation for Ascendance too, because Lava Lash doesn't really matter. But when you run the Elementalist build, as you can see for a brief, I can't even highlight them. So this right side, the Lava Lash setup becomes insane. You get Lava Lash procs, then you obviously prioritize it. Every time you have Ice Strike, you're going to press that and you're going to Frost Shock. I'm hovering over where Frost Shock is going to be on my bar when I switch, which is right here. And that was Ice Strike, I'm pretty sure. Ice Strike, Frost Shock. So then you Ellie Blast when you have Maelstrom. You Lava Lash whenever you get a proc for it. You Lightning Bolt, especially with Prim Wave to get double Lightning Bolt, or sometimes a lot more than that if you can spread your Flame Shock to multiple targets, which you can do by pressing Lava Lash, which you'll always do when you have a proc. And then you Ice Strike, Frost Shock. Yeah, there you go. So now I should be able to show you, right? And there's the highlighting I was trying to do. So it's really just a priority system. You do not do quite a one-shot like that, but the damage is still really high. And like I said, sustain goes. I'm not going to wait for Ascendance to come back up because I don't think you need it. You just Flame Shock, get your wolves out. These are Ellie wolves now, remember. And then remember that generates a ton of Maelstrom. You could throw in Hero there. So you're going to get your Ellie Blast. You want an Ice Strike, Frost Shock, and there's that proc I was talking about. Fire. Look at that. 101k non-crit. Ew. There you go. Big. Then you proc again. I already have my Ellie Blast. Both charges gone because I was using them. Then you Frost Shock. Frost Shock. Ice Strike, Frost Shock. Ellie Blast. You can get a Sunder in there. Yeah. So you're thinking, wow, this build just blows, right? You do no damn. Nothing compares to the Doomwinds build. But I didn't press Ascendance. But this build never stops doing this. So what you're going to notice is, one, everything ignores armor, not just the Ascendance scale, because you're using magical damage. And I'll throw an Ascendance in there just for fun. This build never stops doing damage, right? Every cooldown is so short. And big Lightning Bolt. The Ghost Wolves is such a short cooldown. The Ellie Blast is a short cooldown. The Ice Strike is a short cooldown. You're getting procs of Lava Lash all the time. So, see, my damage is just going up, obviously, because I think. Then you Sunder, you Hero again, get another Ellie Blast in there. It just never, ever, ever runs out. There's another Flame, Lava Lash proc. Frost Shock again. Lava Lash proc again. Lightning Bolt again. Lava Lash again. Right? So this build will just do 80k DPS like to that dummy for a universe of time. And also, I'm not running my full mastery setup. I'm running the Doomwind setup to show you guys that iconic 160k DPS burst. But yeah, I think all the top shamans will run this because of the reliability. It's really hard to deal with getting hit for, what were those? 300k, but that's nerfed in PvP. It's not going to, unfortunately, you're not going to hit for 300k. I know you wish you did, but you won't. Lava Lash, insanely hard. Lightning Bolt's insanely hard. Frost Shock's insanely hard. See how all of these things are 100k plus? When it gets to late dampening, which Solo Shuffle does quick, it's really hard for a healer to deal with getting hit for 100k from across the map because Frost Shock is range, LA Blast is range, Lightning Bolt is range. Just like targets are not even able to really kite you on those hits, and you're just constantly chunking people. It absolutely net skills, and I've seen top enhancement shamans do that all the time. So, okay. There you go. I know that I went overboard with explanations in this video, but it was my most requested video by far, and I wanted to do it justice. Everything that I had learned about fiddling with these talents, everything I'd learned from better players, everything that I had seen, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments that are like other things that they've seen from top streamers that they want to add as to like, oh, this guy does this or that guy does this. Please, just do it. I'm 30 years old, dude. Like, I am ready for discussion and conversation and to learn something myself. That's all I'm trying to do. But you're going to see a huge attitude shift in this old man over the next couple of months. Okay. I hope that helps. See ya. Peace.